I used to have 5/8 pieces of steel bars bent across my throat, and I had I achieved set a record in 2012 or 13 where I had 7 of those bent over my front of my throat in 57 seconds.
Are you nuts?
Hey guys, in today's video, my guest is Mike the Machine Bruce. He's an incredible strongman. Actually, he helped develop, in collaboration with Neckflex, this amazing device, which I'm going to chronicle me building my neck, trying to get that Rambo 3 Stallone neck, right? That's going to be some content in the future. I'm going to chronicle everything using this device. But anyway, if you want to find out more about Mike and this device, everything's linked in the description below. You can follow him on social media, his YouTube channel, Instagram, etc. This is part 1 of my discussion with him. We're going to talk about some of the more incredible feats of strength he was able to accomplish, and also we're going to talk about like drug-free training and a few other things. But anyway, please help support the channel by hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing the video. And with that said, let's get on to this part of the discussion. Okay, so basically, pound for pound, you're like one of the strongest guys on the planet. So, which I think I've seen your videos, man.
But that's very kind of you. I don't consider that, but that has been said time to time. I'm humbled by that.
That's really cool. But speaking of which, though, can you tell us some of the crazier feats of strength that you've been able to perform?
Well, the craziest thing that I've done is I hung myself on the noose, and I got that idea from Farmer Burns because a lot of people. If you're a wrestling fan of the older days, not the stuff on TV today, but one of the famous things he would do is hang himself on the noose. So, of course, I'm known for my neck strength, and so I thought, well, why don't I see if I can do that? So there is video of that, and I was able to do that. That's one thing. I don't encourage everybody to do that. You know, you got to be your own person. Use your brain. You know, think for yourself. Critical thinking. Don't take your brain out. Play with it like a Rubik's Cube.
You kids don't go out and try that. You stay in school.
The other thing I did was I used to have 5/8 pieces of steel bars bent across my throat, and I had I achieved set a record in 2012 or 13 where I had 7 of those bent over my front of my throat in 57 seconds.
Are you nuts?
And then some of the other things are more. I do finger pull-ups. But a lot of the other stuff is things that are common in performing strongman. You know, like twisting horseshoes, bending spikes, driving a spike through a board with your hand. Those are more having a bowling ball drop on my stomach, or have a human like yourself get on a ladder and jump onto my belly. But those are things that are common. Those things were taught to me by the great strongman Dennis Rogers, who was then in turn was with Slim the Hammerman, who was trained by the Mighty Atom. So, but mainly the neck thing is my thing.
Oh, going back to like that hanging noose thing, when you first started practicing it, like, did you have somebody there to spot you, I would assume?
Oh yeah. And because what I wanted to do was, there was a guy, I don't know the guy, never met him, named Mike Dayton, and he did strength shows too. So when I say strength shows, I don't mean the world's strongest men guys. Those guys are 300 plus pounds.
Yeah, sure.
You know, those guys are on a whole nother level regarding what they do. I'm talking doing a legit feat of strength to entertain an audience, where I'm getting paid and or doing a charity show for a set event. You know, like I used to like to speak to kids that were in middle school, because due to my background, my childhood, that was the age that was kind of my thing, that in high school. So a feat of strength is something that you're doing and you're getting paid, and it's a legit feat, not a trick or an illusion. There's a lot of guys out there that'll be tricksters, you know, and I like magicians, but I don't like tricks when it comes to strength. I think you need to be legit in man of your word. So the gentleman, Mike Dayton, who again I never met, he would hang from a noose and he would hold the rope behind him while he hung, which of course, you being the shape that you are, you understand the front delts and the arms are taking a lot of that load off your throat. Not to discredit him, but I wanted to do it like this, free hanging, so that's what I did.
That's crazy.
And the difference was, of course, I'm always within 200 pounds. So I was about 198, 205 back then. And a lot of the monks that you see, the famous monk kung fu guys, they'll have kids hanging by their chins and stuff when they're little, you know. So it was just different for a guy of my weight to do that.
How long, like, before you were able to do it? Like, you weren't able to do it on the first time you tried, right? Or were you?
No. what I did was I used the same progressions like I've always been able to do pull-ups and chin-ups because I've been training for 35 years of my life. I just turned 47 2 weeks ago, and I started training at 13. So what I did was just like when you're teaching someone that can't do a pull-up or a chin-up, you put a band. So I had had a noose, which I didn't know how to make. I had a gentleman, I'm a concrete guy by trade. My boss made the noose for me, and I put the band up on the rig, and then I put my knees in the band while I took the strain on my neck, because even though my neck was really strong, that's a very risky thing to do. If you slip up and your head's not positioned right, not only are you going to get a zinger, you could possibly really damage yourself. Right? You're not going to kill yourself necessarily, but it's just not a good idea. There's got to be a lot of patience, you know.
That's crazy.
Because first of all, I wanted to say, as we started, I didn't get a chance to say I'm humbled to be on your show. I big fan like yourself. I know I'm 7 years older than you, I believe. Big fan of the shows that you watch, be action movies. I'm not a martial artist, to make that perfectly clear. I'm just an old former salty wrestler, not a martial artist. But I'm very grateful and humbled to be on, that you'd be interested enough to want to have me on your show. So I hope I bring something good to your audience.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on here, Mike. When you say you're not a martial artist, but you have fought, like you've done shoot fighting, you've done like judo. I think you're a martial artist. I don't know how you define it.
That's all true, but I was more of a competitor than a martial artist. Like I think a martial artist, if you look at guys like, again, I've been blessed to meet a lot of people in the strength industry as well as the fight industry. Don the Dragon Wilson is a martial artist, a legend. I was more just a guy that had a horrible childhood and took that childhood and turned it into a way of me to release stress, and I wanted to test myself against another person and see how I would do. And I did really well in wrestling in high school, but I got kicked off the team 2 years in a row for being a knucklehead. And I was one of the captains, co-captains. And so I got to fulfill my potential everybody thought I had later on in life when MMA was in its inception. So around 1996 is when I started competing in the local circuit in the New England area. And I did really well. And then the school I trained at was a submission wrestling school. And it was shared the gym with a kickboxing gym. So Tony TNT Ventura was the ISKA or ISKVA or something like that. In New Bedford, he was a middleweight champion. They needed a kickboxer for their show, so they asked me if I would fight. And I was like, well, okay, what do I got to do? And so I had to get 8 kicks in a round. I ended up dropping the guy 3 times in 3 rounds. Then they offered me a shot at the New England title back then. And of course, I was like, you're out of your mind. I'm not a kickboxer. This guy, the champ, will light me up. But the reason they did that is, I guess, because they thought I posed a threat for a guy that didn't have any, formal kickboxing training. My background's wrestling, and I was a state judo champ in Connecticut for judo. And I just took to, I'm just a submission wrestler pretty much. I'm not anything special. But I think when you say martial artist, those are, I just don't have that same code. My code is a little bit different. But I think wrestling is a martial art, of course, but I just think there's so many guys that are legends in the martial arts realm, and I'm not one of those kind of guys.
Okay. But you were a pretty scrappy fighter, though. You've done, for not being a quote martial artist, you've done pretty well in fighting and stuff.
Well, that was a long time ago in its inception. My record was 18 wins, 5 losses, and 13 of those wins were by submission. But that was mostly all shoot fighting, submission wrestling. Like I competed in I completed in Kip Kohler's Naga tournament the 2nd and 3rd years ever in its inception. And I have a lot of clips of my matches with him reffing. We could only draw like 60 people to come watch at the time back then. Now it's, it's huge, it's blown up. So.
Hey, let me ask you this, Mike. Since you can basically hang from the noose, you could have a dude like bend a bar on your neck, which is ridiculous. Do you think like you can even get choked out if somebody had you?
100%.
You could still get choked out even though you could hang by a noose.
Of course, yes.
I don't know. You got that like 20-inch neck, man. If someone could even get around.
My neck is about 19. I'm about 195 right now. I train to. We'll get into that later, but I still train with the mindset I'm going to compete. But the way the world is, and our country, you and I being an American clown world, I won't get on a tangent, but I train where if, Lord forbid, something ever happened, and I have to have one more match, I can definitely go for a little while with some knucklehead scumbag. But anyway, yes, 100% be choked out, because I've been tapped out 3 times out of my 5 losses. I mean, in a contest, in sparring, you get choked out all the time.
Mhm.
you know, but I've out of my 5 losses, 3 of them were by tap out. One was by getting punched in the face repeatedly, and the other 2 were by chokes. So granted, I was not the neck guy back then that I became, but of course, there's a lot of top fighters in even the UFC, some guys that, you know, use my neck training system that have my harness and things of that nature. And if anybody gets you in a choke, it doesn't matter who you are. It comes down to intestinal fortitude, your gusto, what's down between, you know, between your legs, like what kind of shape you in, where's your mentality at the time? Because I have video of me where guys are choking the crap out of me, and the ref's like got the shoot sign, like you're gonna quit, and even have video where you hear me, I got my finger in, and I'm like, no, but then there's other times I did. So it really depends on the person. I think if anybody gets you, you only got so much time to try to get that finger hook in there to try to get some air cleared, and then it all comes down to your mentality. You know, how are you that day? You might be having an off day, you might not. So yeah, of course, anybody could. I just, again, I'm 47. It would be foolish of me to think that I can still scrap with a guy, the old me at 27, or some guys in his prime. However, if it's just an average Joe, just like yourself, strength is good, weakness is evil. I think an average Joe would have quite a difficult time grabbing me by the neck, because I'd be like, oh, okay, well, that's wonderful. Welcome to my world. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
go ahead and grab me, you know? But yeah, of course, anybody can choke.
Hey, Mike, I always like to ask people who've been lifting forever. Like, I think you said you've been lifting for like 35 years, right?
35 years, yep.
Yeah, I'm at 27 years myself. So is there like a specific age where you think you peaked? Because you had referenced, like, you know, you may not be as scrappy as you were when you were like in your 20s. Now you're like in, you know, between 45 and 50. So strength wise, like, where do you think you peaked? I'm always curious. Because some guys might peak in their 20s, some 30s, some probably not even till their 40s.
That's true. That's a great question. Here's the thing, is that what I meant by that is, if you put me now on the mat with me of a long time ago, me at my prime, my supposed prime, the competitive guy at 27, that guy's mentality was, I was never the most skilled. I was never the most technical. I have newspaper articles on saying this very thing from the New England area where I'm from. Of course, I don't live there now. I live on a mountain in Kentucky. But that guy at 27, his whole thing was, I'm not the best technical guy, but I am in great shape. I'm very strong, and I'm going to come at you. So I was coming at you like a tank. So the me now, am I still just as strong as then? 100% in certain things. I'm actually stronger. I'm still the same body weight. I'm still 198. That was my competitive weight. I'm still that weight. I still got a 32, 33-inch waist, 19-inch neck. So the me now has more knowledge. The question is, could I keep, even though I'm still aggressive, I don't counter punch. I'm not a counter guy. I'm not a technical guy. I have 5 things I do perfectly, and I feel very confident. If I get somebody in that, it's my game. The question would be, could I keep the 27-year-old guy at bay enough to do so? So I think my peaking happened between 40 and now, as far as lifting goes, not fighting, lifting, because I achieved some really, for me, impressive and personal bests at a later age, and I still think even now, I'm still there. My numbers and my times are not lying.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, in some ways, you know, I kind of still feel like I'm in my prime in some ways, but not in other ways. Like, there are certain things that I've done better younger, right? But there's certain things I do better now than when I was younger.
You haven't peaked yet?
Like, even like strength endurance type things, which is interesting, but not everything. There's definitely some lifts that I would kill myself back then that I can't do now.
Like, I can't deadlift I can't do the deadlift I used to do because I don't deadlift anymore. I achieved my goal, and that was that, you know. As far as competition, like, I'm nowhere near as fast as I was, but I'm not slow, you know what I mean? So, and I have a lot more damage on my body too. Like, inside my elbow, like, there's no way I never was good at arm wrestling anyway, but somebody got me to top wrist lock with this arm. If I don't get out quick, I'm in trouble. So, you know, the difference is that, and it should happen, guys like you and I that have been training majority of all of our lives, we should still keep getting better. We should still keep Father Time at bay the best we can, because this is what we do. This is our livelihood. This makes us feel good. This is our therapy, right? So it shouldn't be a surprise to many when they say, dang, Mike, you're almost 50. You don't look it. Or Anthony, you look amazing. That's what first thing I told you. You look fantastic. You're in great shape.
Thanks, man.
I'm not part of the Fruit Pop crew. Nothing against the Fruit Pop crew. I'm just saying that man to man, you look
You got to
really
respect a guy in the gym if he looks good, if he's
Yeah,
strong.
of
It's
course.
a guy thing, right?
Well, you're functional and tactical. It doesn't, just because you got a big juice monkey guy that's lifting a bunch of weight, who cares? That's his business. Let them be them. I'm not on anything, never have been. I'm natural. You're natural. You can tell by our physiques. But too many people want to say, well, that guy's on there. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Just do yourself, be you, and leave people the hell alone. Now, if they want to come cross the line and have a conversation with you otherwise, that's a different story. But yes, you should be able to respect another person. Say, wow, instead of talking a bunch of crap about them on the keyboard or behind their back or some other Yahoo, you should appreciate somebody that puts the time in, that trains, and is as like athletic as you are, flexible as you are, with all your looks like Van Damme kicks. I'm watching that crap you do. I'm like, well, it's not crap, but I'm thinking, I'll pull my groin. One of my penny stack will be on the floor if I try to do that. So.
Hey, speaking of being natural, here's a question. So we both been lifting forever, right? Now, why did you decide that you were just going to stay that natural route? Because a lot of people, like, over time will start thinking, maybe I will try something. And everyone's got their own reasons for either doing it or not doing it. But basically, why did you decide I'm just going to keep on trucking being a natural dude?
So I started training at 13 years old. And again, I come from a horrible childhood. My mom was amazing, great woman, still alive today. But she made some choice of husbands, and let's just say mine, one of the choices was not good. So I started training because I was getting ragdolled and beat up and picked on, not only at home from the boogeyman, my mom's second husband, but as a child, as with other kids. Didn't like me. I was the weird kid they didn't like. And so I started training my neck because I was a wrestler and I was getting ragdolled. And I figured I'd use my head again, ladies and gentlemen. I thought for myself that if I build the neck up strong, I won't get ragdolled so bad. So I was always told by other people, you're really strong for your age. And I'm not against steroids. I'm not against people using them, because who am I to tell you what to do with your body?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You are you. You do your thing. Just leave me the hell alone. And I'm going to leave you alone, right? Unless we're friends, we have a conversation. I just felt I was really strong for my weight. And I have the pictures, a timeline from 13 when I started all the way up to now, every year pretty much. And I just, I didn't see what it would really do for me. I never wanted to run around my banana hammock and, doing all this kind of stuff and flexing in front of a bunch of men for men to tell me whether I look good or not, when they can't even tie their own shoes, let alone find out where their gusto is. You understand what I'm saying? Being PG. And they're going to tell me whether I got six-pack abs. I don't care about six-pack abs. I wanted to be built like a brick poop house and be able to be good on the mat. So drugs to me, just, again, it comes from my childhood. The boogeyman and my biological father, both of those men, one was an alcoholic and a druggie. The other one was just a policeman that used to beat the hell out of me. And so I never want to be like my biological father. And that's the main thing with the drugs. I've never been drunk. I've never, ever been drunk. I've had sips of drinks, but the reason I don't drink is I'm waffling on a little too much. My mom used to tell me as a kid, you're in such good shape and you're so nice, but you open your mouth, you're just like your father. She'd do this to me. And that means my biological father. And he was the one that drank and had, marijuana and other things he was doing. And I never wanted to be like him. So I just never, my obsession and addiction was training. I just never had the desire to do it. We were talking about steroids and on alcohol. That kind of tied in with my situation. So the steroids thing is that, and honestly, I'm a little vain. I joke with my wife. I say, hey, I'm ruggedly handsome and massively beautiful. I'm definitely not a pretty boy, at 47. And I think that if you see a lot of those fellas that take a large amount of performance enhancement, they get huge and jacked. And then not only with the medical side effects they have, but they come off. And then they're not that same person anymore in the mirror. I'm the same guy every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm proud of what I've built. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to think that your body is good looking. No, not everyone's going to think my body's good looking. But I've attained and achieved what I want, and I work daily to keep that. So I just never never wanted to do it.
Yeah, it's all about the consistency, man. Like, it's got to be hard for the guys that use stuff if they get off because, I like to feel like I'm at the peak all the time, every day of the year, like you just mentioned. But those guys that are like, they're on and they're off and then they're weak and they're small compared to, how then they get big and they're strong. Like it's got to mess with you psychologically. I like to just keep it. Like one of the reasons why, I never went in that area. Like when I was in high school, like I totally just wanted to be like a professional bodybuilder, right? But I thought those guys were natural. But then when I found out they weren't, it was kind of a turnoff. And then because I was getting some pretty good results anyway, where people would actually accuse me of being on steroids, I'm like, well, if I'm looking good enough and I'm strong enough for some people to actually think I'm on that stuff without actually having to be on it, then maybe I shouldn't even get on it. So
Exactly.
I
That's
just
the best compliment, right?
me, man.
Yeah, when the haters and the energy vampires and Sally syndrome people decide to say you're on the sauce, that's a compliment. That means we're doing something really good.
Yeah. Because I had this conversation with a guy in the gym the other day and I was all pumped up. So I had the veins popping and everything. And he said, "You're looking kind of juicy." So I just had to let him know that's like a great backhanded compliment, because like in one aspect, they're kind of saying, "Oh, you only look like that because, you're on stuff." But then I told him, I actually appreciate that compliment now because I don't want to be the guy that everybody think is natural because then I must not look good or I must be weak. Like, oh yeah, of course that guy's natural. It's like, well, that's a pretty damn big insult if you think about it. Hey, going back to when you started lifting though at 13. So did you just do like the normal bodybuilding or powerlifting lifts, like your bench press, your squats, your deadlifts, your curls? Like, did you just do that or did you get into more like the weird lifts? Because you do a lot of weird stuff on Instagram and you do those weird, bending horseshoe. Like nobody does that, man. Like I've never met a guy who bends horseshoes or does the things
Well, you
that
have now.
well, yeah, aside from now, like that's just not something you see. So did you have like a normal like lifting routine? Hey guys, in part 2 of this video, we're going to cover a lot of other cool stuff. Obviously, talk about training. I'm going to pick his brain as far as his training routine. We're going to talk about injuries, how we dealt with them, and all kinds of other cool stuff. So make sure to check that out in the future.